So Harold will take the microphone around to each person. Just state your name, your country, and just give a brief description of what you see. And, you can talk about the shapes, the colours, anything else that you see distinctive.
Hi everyone, my name is Basanjaral. I'm from Mongolia. And I see a red color and yellow and green, and blue, green, and there is leather and black line. I can see it.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to our next participant. And it's important that the ball remains still.
Okay, my name is Alet from Thailand. So I see the yellow part of ball and the green of ball and some word. And so I see in the red part of ball. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that. Our next participant, microphone's coming.
Hi, Charles Louis Evangelista from the Philippines. So far, I see colors red, yellow, and I think it's more like a shade of green, lighter shade of green.
Thank you. And our last participant.
Hello, my name is Tanya and I'm from New Zealand. I see, I'm going to go real weird on this one. I see blue and green, but I also see somebody holding the ball up and doing a great job of holding it up for so long.
Thank you, Ete Whanaunga. You can put the ball now. Thank you. Thank you for your resilience. The objective of that activity was to show that although we have a ball in the middle, everyone is seeing this ball from different perspectives. And so they come from their own local contexts. Those contexts may be informed and underpinned by where they come from, their knowledge that they have, maybe their knowledge systems that underpin those local contexts. And so you would have seen that everyone's had slightly different interpretations of what risk was. However, there were also some that also saw blue, yellow, red, and so there are actually similarities in what they saw as well. And so to set the scene, we have to do this together, essentially. So can I have a round of applause for all those participants? Thank you. I would like to now introduce our panelists to the stage. Firstly, we have Dr. Nida Shresha Pradhan, Coordinator Action Area on Managing Cryosphere and Water Risks, Senior Water and Adaptation Specialist for ICI MOD. Also like to introduce Dr. Ani Binti Ahmad, President of Ampang Jaya Municipal Council, Malaysia. Would like to introduce Ms. Flora Vano, Country Program Manager for ActionAid Vanuatu. And lastly, Ms. Duang Napa Utamangkapong, Director of Research and International Cooperation Bureau, Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation from Thailand. Please give a round of applause for our panelists. What follows now is a series of presentations, talks by each of our panelists. We will basically, they will give short presentations, around about 5 minutes, and they will follow in sequence. So if you do have questions along the way, we will have a question and answer session after all the participants, the presenters have presented their talks. Also, if you do have questions as well, please we have microphones dotted around the room, so please make your way to those, but we will come to that session after we've gone through all the presentations. Thank you. So I would like to I'm going to sit down now. I would like our first presenter, Dr. Neera Shresha Pradhan. The focus of her presentation talk will be on the role of international government, integration with scientific research and indigenous risk knowledge, particularly in the context of the Himalayas. And the question we have asked her is, how has the ICI MOD integrated scientific and indigenous risk knowledge in the Himalayas? And what are some successful examples of this integration across local, national, and regional levels to enhance disaster resilience? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. AC Mode works in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. So my presentation will be mainly focusing on what are the risks that we are facing in the Hindu Kush Himalaya and what are the knowledge base. And this is a very good question to start the discussion with when we are talking about how we are going to see risk from different perspectives. Hindu Kush Himalaya, just to give you a brief idea of where we work. Hindu Kush Himalaya is considered as the third pole because this has the largest ice reserve besides the two poles. And our region is also very important because there in this pole, people also reside. And the impact of climate change in this region, in this third pole, will have implications to the lives and livelihood of people downstream. The research that we have conducted at ICIMOD shows that in a 1.5 degree world, glaciers in our region will lose around 1/3 of their volume by 2100 and 2/3 of their volume under the current emission scenario. It is also shown from the research that the snow cover area and snow volumes will decrease in the coming years. That means when we need snow and water, the water availability downstream in the beginning will be more, but as we move on, the water availability will be less. But these are not the only risks that we are facing. In our region, we are also facing cascading and compounding hazards. That means it's not only one as business as usual hazard, it's not only flood, but flood leading to other impacts like sediment, landslide, debris flow, and impacting the downstream communities. And in the recent years, we have been seeing this impact more and more in our region, like the Chamoli flood in India, the Milamji flood in Nepal, and many others, in our region. That's why the important thing to understand about this risk is not only single, but cascading and multi-hazard scenario is very important in our region. Flood is one of the major disasters in our region, and as you can see the statistic, almost 63% of people are impacted by flood disasters. And the scenario looks not so good in the coming days also, because the IPCC AR6 report says that the climate change will bring more unprecedented extremes. That means the extremes will be, the events will be larger in magnitude, increase in frequency. We'll see it in new locations, different timings, and also new combinations. That means, again, compounding and cascading risks. So the climate change, we can already see the impact in our region. It's too much, either too much water when we don't need it, or too little water, again, when we don't need it. That is the impact that we are seeing in our region. What ECMOD is doing, especially we are doing a lot of other works also, but in the context of risk, understanding the risk, is we have established the stream flow prediction tool, which gives almost 10-day stream flow forecast in a river stretch that is in the larger Hindu Kush Himalaya region, which is helpful for supporting decision support. But when we look at the smaller streams, then we have this flash flood prediction tool, which gives almost 54-hour flash flood forecast. Again, very useful for early warning and decision making. And we are also trying to validate it with the local communities. But actually, when we talk about it working together with the local communities, is the community-based flood early warning system that we are working on, where the communities generate the information themselves and pass it on to the downstream communities. And we have been able to very successfully showcase this, not only in our region, but also take it beyond the HKH and to Malawi also. Then after the recent flood in Khado watershed, in one of the watershed in Nepal, we are also able to come out with satellite-based impact assessment, where we did this assessment based on the satellite, but we are also going to the communities to understand their perspective of the flood and what is the actual impact on the ground. The other important thing is the participatory 3D model, where we work together with the communities, hands-on together with them, and try to come out with this model where they locate what are the dangerous areas, what are the vulnerable areas in their communities, what are the important facilities in their communities, so that when disasters happen, especially in this area is the landslide, then they will be able to work on it. Then we are also talking about the inclusive disaster resilience in our region. And one of the first of its kind workshop that we had in our region at ECMOD is bringing in all the participants, people with disability, and trying to work out what are their needs and their, the vulnerabilities that they are facing, so that we can plan out and design our programs accordingly. Two of the major recommendations that came from that meeting was that it's not only about, we are talking about people with disability, but how we can see that no one is left behind is also we have to train the residents, retrain the communities, and train the rescue people so that they can deal with the people with disability when the real actual extreme events happen. And then when we say that we want to make inclusive disaster planning, then we have to include them in the planning process itself. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to bring their voice in the planning process and also in the rescue events. But however, whatever we say, it's not so easy. Disaster risk knowledge, developing disaster risk knowledge has its own challenges. The first thing in our region where what we found is the huge data gap, and the access to the data is one of the challenge. And I think in most of the region, that is one of the challenge also. The second one is the rapid urbanization and climate change. You can see the pictures in the screen. That is the recent, almost like 3 weeks ago, in Kathmandu, there was a huge urban flooding. We had not experienced since past 35 years, and we did not know what to do. We were not prepared for that. So on understanding the risk and the risk knowledge, it was realized that is very important so that we can prepare early for the action. Then the institutional coordination. When we talk about risk, it's not only one organization or the two, but it's a combination of many organizations working together. So that is also one of the challenge in our region. Then this is my last slide. Wanted to let you know that we all know that risk knowledge is very crucial, especially for the local resilience, because it informs early warning system and gives timely information to the local communities, vulnerable communities, for preparedness. It also supports policy and planning, because the governments can then, if we have the knowledge about the upcoming risk, then governments and policymakers can plan the policy and policy accordingly so that we'll have informed decision making. Then it also enhances transboundary cooperation, especially this is one of the issue. If we know upstream and downstream are sharing the information, we know the risk knowledge, then the communities who has to face this will have more lead time for preparedness. With this, a very short, we do quite a lot, but it's just a summary of what we are doing related to this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neva. I would like now to pass you on to Ms. Duang Napa Utanga Makapong. Her focus will be on discussing the incorporation of diverse risk perceptions into Thailand's urban development policies. She will share examples of improved resilience for vulnerable groups resulting from integrating local and indigenous risk perspectives into urban planning. So our question to her is, reflecting on your interpretation of risk within urban communities in Thailand, how has the government integrated these diverse risk perceptions into its urban development policies? And please share an example. Thanks.
Thank you so much. For our country, we have like other countries like Nepal also. We done for the National Disaster Management Plan. This is the third version of our country already. We apply the Sendai framework, we apply the SDG and also Paris Agreement as well as other philosophy of the late King Ramadanai. This is the first priority that our country mentioned about the understanding the risk in terms of for risk assessment like other country, because of we think that risk assessment is very important. We can know the scenario base of disaster in the future. We can project the disaster in the future, and we develop the measure for the urban planning in our country. This is like we done it for a long time, but reality in our country, in the local area, that it's prone for many types of disaster, especially from the flood, flash flood, and landslide. Like, for example, last month, we have the flood, the severe flood in the northern part of Thailand. Even we know in advance they have an impact of the climate change, of the phenomenon of the El Niño in our country. We focusing on the northern part of Thailand already, but for the warning that we give to the local, it's quite difficult to reach like the last mile of the people in the northern part of Thailand that they're prone for disaster. We have to share the data with other country nearby us, for neighboring country, that they know in advance that they have a chance of flood will occur. The community base is quite important, like in Nepal. We do it a lot in the last 20 years in our department, but about 70,000 villages that they prone for the list like flood, flash flood in our country. And for the budget limitation in our country, it's quite difficult to do it. We need to get the support from the private sector, NGOs and the economic sector to support us for this one. Risk financing is also important in our country. So we try to do the risk transfer, like for insurance, for the bond, like disaster management bond or other type of risk transfer in our country. We try to conduct with the international organization to save the local people, to save our community, and also for the AA, participatory action, that we're gonna do it in the future also with the support from international organization like FAO. This is gonna increase the policy for making decision. And also during disaster, we have to know that, like we give the message for the warning to the public. We try to implement, like we try to have the application in our country, like Thai disaster alert, to warn the public in the future. And also, we just got the budget from the government sector to do like other developed country, like in Japan or in other countries, they have the self-board care system. We just got the budget and we will implement next year. But it maybe we try to solve this problem to save our people, like not like inclusive DRR. We have the like English and Thai version for the application to give the warning message. you can download and select like 3 provinces throughout the country. That if you stay like in the northern part, you can select some provinces, like 3 provinces that you can know in advance that they have a chance to have any disaster or not. So this is one type that we can save the people, local people. And also we apply the making city resilient in our country already. That this is a method of UNDRR. Bangkok Metropolitan apply this method, and we include in our national disaster management plan. The local government must have the budget. They must have enough warning system. They must have to prepare the people, the capacity building for the local people to support the government also. So this is one type of that we done in the past and maybe in the future also. For like disaster occur, we have like data. Because of many types of disaster occur, we have to get the data, the information from the past, from the previous, to collect and prepare for the future. And also after disaster occur, since 2011 of the big flood in our country, so we done the post-disaster need assessment with UNDP and other UN agency like World Bank also. We done for promote the sustainable recovery in our country after the big flood in our country. So some sector is quite have an achievement like the agriculture sector and also for the medical sector. But in the other sector, it still have the progress that for the post-disaster need assessment. So we hope that in the future, build back better for our society could be back like the cycle for risk assessment. And so we hope that all the indigenous people or the vulnerability group will be have protect and have the inclusive of the ERR, and not only the government sector can done by ourselves, but we need to get the support from other sector like relevant sector, volunteer and NGOs, and also international cooperation. So we done a lot in our country. We think that it's gonna be like every single sector could not be achieved for disaster risk management, but we have to work with other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuang Napa. I would now like to pass you on to Dr. Ani Ahmad. The focus of her talk presents how the Municipal Council integrates local knowledge and experiences into risk management practices, and she will highlight some specific initiatives around that. So the question posed to her: how has your municipal council integrated local knowledge into risk management, and what successful initiatives reflect the community's influence on disaster resilience strategies? Over to you.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful, thank you, Marino. A very good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. For today's presentation, I want to set the context. I would like to share how a series of landslides or a slope failure that had occurred in my municipality areas has formed a community resilient to ensure their area is safe from another slope failures that could lead to worse calamities. Okay, as a background, our municipality has faced several incidents of slope failures that lead to landslide from 1993, 2002, and the recent ones in 2022. So the most devastated landslide occurred in 1993 in Bukit Antara Baksa, or literally translated as International Hill, where 3 blocks of Highland Tower collapsed, 12-story condominium collapsed and killed 48 people, and 101 units of condominium owner lost their property. Sorry for taking some time. So this map showing the focus area with the red color is the most vulnerable risk area. They are actually located in the hilly area. So the development in this area had happened 20 years ago, and with rapid development and without proper maintenance, the hilly area was prone to slope failures. So the most recent accident that happened in 2022 cost us as a government around 20 million Malaysia ringgit in terms of slope repairs, compensation, and cost for area to be clean, and cost for future maintenance of the slope. So the condition getting worse when it is raining because the earth is more fragile and because of the land is more fragile and also soft. Okay, in the past, slope failures have been approached with engineering solution until now, but with changing climate conditions and limited resources, involvement from the communities is a must. We can no longer engineer ourselves out of disaster risk. Social programs involving communities to come up with solutions collaboratively and cooperatively with the local governments are always welcome. We are lucky enough to have a resident association who understand their surrounding well, and they are likely collaborate with local government, and they are actually actively and proactively together with the authorities to ensure their safety. So what is Slope Watch? It started as a community program after the Bukit Antarabangsa landslide for signs of slope failures and report to local authorities for their prompt action. So this is actually a community-based organization. It has been setting up in 29. So from that year, over 200 cases management handled and resolved because they actually collaborate with local authorities and residents, and they had actually received a few awards at the international level and also at the local level. So what they do, this community-based organization provides public awareness and education on slopes and help residents process reports on signs of slope failures. So the Slope Watch goals is actually to build pre-disaster capacity and capability in building resilience within communities towards landslide incident and disaster through proactive awareness, maintenance, monitoring, and also reporting activities. So the main three activities are actually knowledge sharing, where they upgrading the knowledge of the communities by sharing science and evidence-based research. Okay, what they do is actually local authority conducting awareness program for residents about the importance of slope safety and know what to do in case of emergency. This knowledge sharing is actually promoting behavior change, awareness, and education through community talks. Second, slope monitoring and reporting, knowing the signs of landslide is a form of early warning system that leads to community action. So after that, the community will keep on monitoring the sign and reporting to local authority. And also a set of standards operating procedures help the municipality and this organization to understand the process of resolving problems and quickly processing reports. What the community expect are actually in terms of quick action taken by the local authority, but as we all know, as being a government, quick action require cost and thorough inspection. So by having this systematic approach to slope case management, it actually can have some understanding between the community, the resident association, and also the local authorities. So the last one is about community programs. In 2022, Community Disaster Risk Reduction Resource Center has been set up for this organization, and actually we are partnering with Japan for having this community programs that become as a community resource and education hub between the local authority and also the residents. So the last one. So other programs is actually this community organization have other programs between municipality and also the residents. So they actually participate in partnership with international organization in installing prototype testing in their area just to monitor the movement of the land, and also having a partnership with other corporation on community weather, and also training of trainers in 2018 and 2024. I think because of this collaboration, I have twofold benefits for the community. They have peace of mind, sense of our control, and also they can live in a very peaceful mind. And for the local authorities, because of this collaboration, the community become eyes and ears for the local authority to take further action. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ani. I would like now to pass you on to our last speaker, Ms. Flora Vano. The focus of her talk explores the engagement of vulnerable groups in Vanuatu's risk management. She will share opportunities and practices for identifying risk and building resilience. That includes voices from women, youth, and other marginalised communities. So our question to her was, what are the opportunities to enhance the engagement of vulnerable groups in risk management, considering how your community interprets risk in Vanuatu? Over to you, Flora.
Thank you. Well, allow me to first introduce the organization that I actually represent, from the community coming all the way from Vanuatu to Asia Pacific Ministerial Meeting here in the Philippines. I looked after an organization called ActionAid in country. ActionAid is a global federated organization that works in 70 countries. However, in Vanuatu, our focus is only on women leadership, women and girls with disability, and that's the only focus that we had in Vanuatu. Why that focused? We live in a patriarchal society, male-dominated space. Our gender, my gender, as a female, is already a risk and a barrier to my growth in my community. And therefore, this organization has allowed and created a space for women to participate meaningfully and even have their voices heard in decision-making spaces. It's not easy. It's a challenging space. But given that the organization has the trust that community collectively can actually being able to transform their own life and be community resilient by themselves, all you need to do is enhance and assist them to do so. So ActionAid has facilitated Women to Talk Together, a network of women in 2015 after the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Pam. And that is a Category 5. It swept everything along its path. And that said, it's been over, the last one we had was 1986. And then we got 2015. And we always believe that, we are cursed since after 2015. We got massive disasters one after the other. The recent one we had was last year, twin cyclone, 48 hours apart from each other, Category 4. After that, we just had an off-season cyclone, and of course the earthquake follows. So you can't imagine how community will pick up right after each one to try and build back their lives. Today, the network that we had is around 9,000. We kicked off with 3,000, and now it's 9,000 women. Now, we have been able to reach the most vulnerable in the community, supported them with food security, dignity of communities impacted by cyclone. Now, going to the questions, risk are gendered in women. Examples for rural women in rural communities is what makes them more vulnerable. In disasters, it's about safety, from where they live and where they go, to the market, or how their children actually access education, where they are going to school. It's about violence that they faced every day. It's about the unpaid care work that increases at a time of crisis. It's about lack of food, lack of clean water to drink and to use. It's about exploitation, abuse. These are the risks that communities like mine faced day in, day out, every day. Risk in the Pacific or small island state also is similar in our context. Different when you are a single mother, you are a widow. Different when you are a mother of 10, 15 children, if you're educated or you're not educated. If you are living at the coastal area or you're living up in the bush in the island, if you are in the urban setting or in a city, it's very different from everybody. Vulnerable groups are increasing in our communities, and what we look at is not their inability or their vulnerability, but their ability and their capability in our community. We support women to collectively address the risk because its deeper impact. We support them to understand, know their rights in emergency, and meaningfully participated, not just warming the seat when you were called onto a decision-making space. We used woman-led community-based protection tool as an approach to analyze and identify for safety, dignity, and right in disaster. How women can use their own capacity, knowledge to find solution for their issues at a normal time, at time or during disaster, and even after disasters. And this tool helps to get them more creative and innovatively identify where those help can be accessed and how they can stand up for themselves during those times. And also, in those spaces that I worked in, there's no police post, health service probably 20 miles to reach it, walking. So remotely, when we look at it, it's far from being here, pressing, a light switch, turning a tap, running water. It's not the same. And I'm looking at this approach on moving from the bottom up. How do we link women and communities to be able to be resilient apart from all the risks that they face? So we also have an example on the 3 gardens. As a female, we don't own land. I don't inherit my dad's farm because I'm a female. My other siblings would, my brothers would, but not me. We can only negotiate land to plant food. And what we have seen in our line of work is the 3 initiative garden. 1 garden is for you to sell at the market, get the money, financially it's sustainable, and that's your economic empowerment right there. Another garden you plant is just for your consumption. And that's when you address health risk, health issues. You eat organic, you eat what you plant. Don't eat things from the canned food. The 3rd garden is for disasters. Why disasters? Women can actually gather food and give it to her next neighbor. And that's the way of life we have lived it for generations to come and generations to come. And it has been passed on. And how it's passed on? Intergenerational learning. That knowledge is passed from us women to our kids. And from the kids, it's still passed on. So women are also knowledge holders of their own traditional methods and traditional knowledge. Important to prioritize. We support the organization's organizing of women, girls, and women with disability. So the approach we took is inclusive. We wanted to make sure that we leave no one behind. And if women are advancing, so is women and girls with disability. They are no difference. And we have seen that when you prioritized women leadership in early warning and anticipatory action, you support the preparedness phase and it reduces a high number of risks. Now, in Women in Talk Together platform network, we also have a multi-hazard early warning communication system for women. Now, how does that work align with our existing National Disaster Management Office? The government have its own system to reach the community. However, in the community as women, we also need to find spaces to engage in those systems. The systems are not friendly. They can be there, but are male-dominated. As female, we need to build our own leadership to engage in those spaces and drive our agenda. Now, early warning system that we had, the women define the key message. We don't use jargons we don't use scientific terms to address our key message. It's actually messaging that women knows daily on their daily life. I'll give a practical example. If we have rain for 7 days, that's what the Meteor's office is saying. In the context of a female a mother of probably 10 children in the community, she lives near a river. Behind her was a big, she's down the river, in the valley. She's prone to landslide if there's too much of rain. Flash flooding because the river is there. And of course, school is on the other side. Her children needs to cross over to go to school. What are the key messages that she should receive that we should send her instead of saying 7 days of heavy rain, flash flooding? She will want us to tell her, collect firewood before the rain starts, because that was the forecast. It wasn't telling her about the 7 days. It was telling her about the actions. What is it that she needs to do to prep for that? So simple messaging like this by women, for women, it's been kept in a messaging bank, and we disseminated it when the forecast stated 7 days of rain. And it varies from different contexts. And that's our early warning, and that's our anticipatory. And from that, it changes a lot of perspective and respect for women in communities. At first, we were not seen as we can do things. They always said, oh, you talk too much, you do this, you do that. Now we are taking it to a very good use on making sure that this information is being given to our community leaders, and they started to respect us more. We did research in partnership with UTS, University Technology Sydney, and it was funded by the Australian Humanitarian Partnership. It's on economic of acting early. And the economic of acting early, it actually bring out the work that we do on Women, Wet and Weather, which is our multi-hazard early warning system. It actually stated that every $1 we spend on early warning or preparedness, we actually save $4 on disaster or humanitarian action. And it also talks about the gender transformative impact in communities that we are engaged in. So the big picture is important to integrate with the government system, where we leave no one behind and reach the last mile. The model will be rolled out through the Pacific Women Lead Coalition, Shifting the Power Coalition, partners in Tonga, Bougainville, Papua New Guinea, through Power System, which is Pacific-owned, women-led early warning response system. We believe in women leadership, bringing in diverse women together to be able to have a seat on the decision-making table, meaningfully, and where climate change impact had been discussed so that the women can talk about the risk in their own various communities. And I think I'm wrapping up on this because I haven't had a presentation. I thought it would be good just to talk and take you all the way to Vanuatu on this small presentation I'm giving. my key message on getting, effective local resilience is investing in community-based. We can have this talk, we can sit in national places, but once you have the community on the table with you, they define exactly what they need to. And they are the one that we are collectively talking about building that resilience, and it's about them. And we need to bring them on the table. So we need to recognize the local capacity, including women, people with disability, to reduce disaster risk. This includes investing in women-led organizing, networking and supporting to drive locally led solution, support to access new technology to reduce disaster risk, and also invest in access to latest scientist evidence and innovation, that we can integrate our traditional knowledge into it and, of course, contextualize it and own it so we can be resilient on our own when we stand up. Information is power, and women and community need to access this power to be resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. Now we've got about 10 minutes for Q&A. So the floor is open. There are microphones in the center of the room. If you have a question, just make your way to the microphone. We do have Harold roving with a microphone, but yeah, the floor is open.
Good afternoon. I am Quincy, the Vice President of the Batang Empowered and Resilient Team of Bulihan National High School in Bulacan Province in the Philippines. BIRT is a school-based organization led by students supporting DRR and climate action in our school and communities. So here's my question for the panelists. How can we better integrate the unique perspectives and lived experiences of children and youth into local and indigenous knowledge systems, especially in enhancing the dissemination of risk information and strengthening community resilience? Are there good practices from your respective countries or region where children and youth's active participation has effectively contributed to risk reduction efforts that we can learn from? Thank you.
Does anyone want to answer that?
Thank you so much for your question. In our country, we done the community-based system with the school, and also we have the school curriculum for the children, and they done with a practice for the evacuation drills, and also they can share the experience with their parents since they're very young, and they learn from the experience. We have to have the good lesson learned to them. And right now, this is the digital world, so like children can have more action to, how can I say, involve of the disaster risk reduction activity. Many school students, many university students, they share their experience with the adult like me or myself. We done the digital game in our country also. We have the competition of the digital games, and also they have the film festival for the youth in our country. You can share your views and do think about the future from now on, from the next 20 years from now on. We have the competition in our country. The university students can share the idea, the experience of the climate change. You can share and tell us what you think about the future. So we can learn from you, not only ourselves, but we exchange the idea. We exchange the data with the school student, university student, and also the future. You are the next generation for us because of we can leave the world to you because of the world is depend on you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dong Napo.
Those activities or practices are also led by students. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. I'm Agustino Cosme Bello from Timor-Leste. So first of all, I'm really appreciate for all speakers that your perspective on the local resilience in disaster risk reduction. I'm really appreciate when you talk more about the risk assessment early warning system, and also vulnerability groups. So my question for the all panelists that what methods or what guidelines or policy that you use for the integration data sharing in the assessment to identify the vulnerability groups to make sure that all inclusivity vulnerability groups are included in the assessment group before disasters happen. I thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. What we do in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, especially in the community-based flood early warning system, if you look at the early warning system cycle, then we do the risk assessment first. So in that risk assessment, we include, it's not only like the scientist going to the ground and doing the assessment or sitting in the table and doing the assessment. So we work together with the communities where all diverse groups of community members will be there, including women, children, people with disability, and also the local governments together to do the risk identification and scoping. So from the very beginning, we engage them in the process. That means till the end, the ownership will be with the with the local communities and the local government. So while doing the risk assessment, we include them. We do the social mapping. We do work together with them to identify the vulnerable areas so that we can, like when the early warning system provides information, they are not excluded from getting the risk information for preparedness. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
In our country, it's quite similar to Nepal. Also, we have like engaged from the vulnerability group from the beginning of the community base. So they are the owner of the planning. So the vulnerability group can be evacuated first. This is our priorities for evacuation. They can get the message. So in the this area, like the prone area, so this is the group that the volunteer can support them, guide them to the safety area first. This is like, so we have to engage them from the beginning, from the risk assessment method.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Paolo Ferreira from Archdiocese of Lipa, Philippines. I would like to direct my question to the two women in the middle. I'm just curious how in your countries are you maximizing or topping organized groups such as Action Aid Vanuatu? Because from my organization, I'm representing the church. Here in the Philippines, we are predominantly Catholic, and we are actually having a hard time to collaborate or to integrate our projects in the communities. It is just now that we are actually mainstreaming the participation of the church groups in the government, especially on the seats on policy making. In your countries, how are you maximizing organized groups in terms of policy making?
Okay, let me answer your questions. Because being a local government, we actually listen to the residents and also to the community. Because before we making policies, because we always engage with this community because they have their own needs and priorities, you see. So what we do, actually, we have a town hall or engagement with the communities. In this case, because of these residents happen in the prone or fragile area, so what we do, we actually listen more and cooperate with them. There are always conditions where they ask us as a local authority, they ask more from us, because they, as I said earlier, they want fast action, they want quick action to be made, to rectify certain problems. But being a government, what we do is actually we explain, we give some scientific-based information for that to understand. After that, when we have mutual understanding, so it's easy for us to work with the community. But first thing first is actually to listen more and talk less, and then proof to this community-based organization or resident that we are actually willing to listen and would like to collaborate more with the residents, especially in the area that is very fragile for slope failure.
If I may just add on for community, when we work with government and being the mediator, sort of, should I say, we organize spaces that get in the policymakers in the room. What we have learned is if it is from the policymakers, they have the agenda, they are the one who talk, they are the one who make who to listen to, what to take, what not to take. But if we turn the table around, we create the space, we bring the policymakers on the table, it's our agenda as community, and we tell, this is what we want, how do we work together in getting that? And I think that for us worked really well, given that my gender is a female. Some communities, I'm not allowed to stand there and talk because of the traditional beliefs that we had. So I have to talk on a platform, and the platform that I usually get my agenda across on is climate change. Because climate change is something affecting everybody. It doesn't care who you are, what you're made of, it will come. So that platform allows me to make that connection, and also allows me to allow government to come in, the policy actors, and we make that dialogue and get a common understanding on how to move forward. Because community resilience or local resilience doesn't work alone. You have to be collective.
Thank you, Flora, and that's it for our Q&A today. Firstly, I just want to thank all our panelists today for their talks. Also to the audience for taking the time out. So a round of applause, please. And I think we'll bring our session to a formal close. But if you have burning questions, I think our panelists will be available during the 2.5 days of conference time. And you can just catch up with them and have further conversations. Thank you. Didn't have time to summarize. Squeeze for time. I was waiting for the one sentence. Yeah. No.
Take a photo. Take one. It's okay, Flora. You can just put it down. They'll figure it out.